This is From Ghosted to Enlightened. And I'm so glad to bring it to you guys. I am just leaving an Eckhart Tolle 4-day seminar teaching. He's the guy that wrote the book, The Power of Now. And so a little over 2 years ago, I was ghosted. And I didn't know what it was. And I'm a psychologist for the last 20 years. And so I'm going to be driving, so I'm totally facing the road and just going to pay attention to that. But I have a 5-hour drive, and I was like, now's the best time to bring this to you guys. It's just straight highway, and I'm not going to pay attention to the camera. But I didn't want you to have no face here, just words. But I plan to add some pictures so that you can see, because I just want you yourself, in whatever way you've been ghosted in your life, to feel love and to know love the whole way through. Because I went through the dark night of the soul. They call it the dark night of the soul, or in 5,000-year-old spiritual traditions, it's called ego death. What happens is your outside circumstances will bring you exactly what you need for your own spiritual awakening. Your outside circumstances are a mirror of something that's going on in your subconscious. We're stopped here. We're blocked in traffic, so. So, if you were ghosted by someone, let me tell you, I didn't know what the word ghosted meant. I can laugh about it now, but it's been 2 years. 2 years. You have no idea. It's like I went to hell and back, and back to heaven, and now I'm in like this place that I just want to give everyone this place, And I wanted to be here 2 years ago, believe me. Like, I was on the floor in a fetal position crying, and I didn't know why. I had no idea why. It's like, it's not from that person. It can't have been from the person that was this friend of mine that I opened my heart wide open, that just disappeared and ghosted me. It came through that person. All of the pain, all of the awakening, all of the heartache, all of the, it opened up some deep wound from childhood that I didn't know was buried under, was buried under. Because think for a second, okay? Your parents look like these two people that are going to love you. They look like your parents. They brought you into this planet, this earth. Your mom housed you as a soul. You're a soul in a body, and you came out. And so at first it seems like you're going to be loved. I don't know how early your childhood traumas were. If you had them, you're probably here. But they look like two people that are going to love you, But then when wherever their own lack is, wherever their own programming from their own childhood is, wherever they don't have the knowledge or conscious capacity. So I was just listening to Eckhart Tolle. He's like an expert. What I was seeing in my intuition, I teach people how to follow their intuition. And like I said, I'm a psychologist in my day job for 22 years. But I teach people now to listen to their own intuition and their own inner knowing, because I just woke up to mine on a whole nother level that I never thought possible. Because your own inner knowing will bring you to healing, and your own, there's a verse, and I welcome all religions, but there's a verse that says, there's a verse that says, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities. And so, you know, it's not just wrestling, but it's just like also Psalm 23, the 23rd Psalm, the Lord is my shepherd, therefore I lack nothing. So in all of this, all right, it's an illusion if you feel it really strongly. So it does not feel like an illusion. It's like if someone just slapped me, I wouldn't just go, well, that's just an illusion. On a sense, it's an illusion, but I feel the physical pain. I felt the psychic pain of this. But I was going to say, you know, Eckhart Tolle is a master, and my intuition was showing me he is a master at learning how to be present and connect with the divine, connect with this knowing that you are a soul in a human body. You are connected to this deeper consciousness. Now you can be completely identified with your outer life, and that's what happens when, you know, you opened your heart to some capacity to someone that you just thought you loved so much, and you thought loved you. You thought it was a reciprocal thing, and then they just disappear, and it just like grinds your heart and crushes it, and like just steps on you and throws you into utter darkness, you know? Eckhart Tolle's partner, Kim Eng, was talking, and she was talking yesterday, because today was the last day, and she said, she was telling this story, right? She was telling this story of this man who was just so angry and bitter in his life, right? Before I go to that story, I want to say, you know, the ghosting, what the ghosting can bring up in us, right? And if you need to go get professional help and therapy, like, go do that. I'm not your psychologist. I'm just a psychologist in my daily life that has a YouTube channel, because I want to help people as just a person, as a person who loves and who doesn't want people to be stuck in their pain. And so what I was going to say is, it reminds me so much of our parents who look like they're going to love us, but wherever they are unconscious, Eckhart was saying, wherever someone is unconscious, they're bound by their programming. You know, when Jesus says, forgive them, they know not what they're doing, because they're not in their higher knowing. They don't know what they're doing. It's not personal. It's not about you. It's not about you deserve to be treated without love. It's about they are stuck in their programmed, in their fear, in their anxiety, in their lack of love. And they're like, hold on a second, I'll love you as soon as I go get my scraps this way. And they're waiting for their parents to love them, and all these things, you know. There's all these things involved. But and so they look like our parents, they look like they're gonna love us, and then they don't, you know. What this guy, my friend, had brought up for me, you know, and Jesus says, pray for your enemies. So I'll call him my friend, because like what came through him was like the best lesson that I ever got in my life. And I'm not just like fake happy at all. I'll tell you, I was on the floor in a fetal position crying maybe for 5 months, you know, because it for some reason, you know, other people could have just walked out of my life and it didn't impact me. But first, some of us, we have like, we come in soul groups, or I don't know what you believe about that. You don't have to believe what I understand. I just got a knowing that some of us, you know, they feel more like home. There's a guy now in my life that's just a friend of mine that I love him so much, and every time we see each other, we're just like, I love you, and he's like, I love you, and I'm like, I love you, and like, I put my head on his shoulder, and like, it's just the weirdest thing, because we just feel full love for one another, you know. And so it just feels like some people feel more like home, you know. And so this person happened to feel like home, and I felt the same way, and was gonna, you know, always be in my life in some capacity, you know, as just like, yeah, you know. Anyway, so what happens is, it reminds you, it takes you back to childhood, to your parents. They seem like they're going to be the source of unconditional love, which they're really not the source. Neither was this guy the source. Neither is this good friend that I've loved so much. Like, he's not the source of it. he's just been beaten down in so many ways, and I won't tell his story, and I have, that it's like, you know, it removed all of this dirt that was in the way of our window so that love shines through us, like the sunroof, you know, the love shines through us to each other, and we're just like, yeah, I'm not going to hold back love for you, and it's just beautiful. And so I learned now how to have that within myself. This is why I say enlightenment, from ghosted to enlightened, because it's enlightened. You're letting in the light in. You're finally letting it in, and you didn't even know how you were blocking it, because everything is a mirror. Okay, so Kim Ing was telling this story about a man, you know, who was just bitter about life and just angry, and he had all these I'll just spell it because I don't know what the you know, the platforms, like they flag for certain things or whatever, but GUNS, he had those in this bag, and he was planning just to go on a spree, you know. And she's telling the story how this dog came up to him, you know, and this dog was just like this, you know, and just wagging its tail. It came out of nowhere, and it just got him. It connected him to the present moment, and he was just, he like put all his stuff down, and he decided not to do it, and he went to the police station and turned himself in. Not that he had committed anything, but just like he needed help or something, because he said this is what he was planning on doing, and he didn't do it, and I started crying, and this is like 2.5 years later, but I was crying while she was talking, because I was like, please God, why didn't you send a dog to this person, you know, before they ghosted me and broke my heart wide open, you know, because I felt like just a bunch of dead people on the ground that had been, you know, and I'm not identified with that now, but it got me back in touch with how deeply that hurt me, because now I know, only because it took all this drywall off. Like if you have an old wound underneath all this plaster and white drywall and paint, and so it looks like a normal wall with paintings on it and wallpaper or whatever, but underneath there's still an old wound, and it's like it needed to be cleared out. And the thing is when you're in pain, it feels like you're going to be in pain forever, okay? Because know that when you experience a trauma, you know, this is why people do EMDR therapy, which is, and you don't have to do that, but that's just one where they're activating the left side and the right side of your brain, and you could just go on a walk and you're activating the left and the right side of you could go on a walk while you're listening to this if you want, this is your choice, but you know, if you're able and all that stuff, is what happens when you have a trauma is your right brain, I don't do this for right, this is R in sign language, your right brain is your emotional brain, and your left brain, this is L, is logical. Okay, so that's how I remembered it from graduate school. I got my doctorate 20 years ago. So I went to 9 years of school, and then I have 20 plus years practice as a psychologist. I know, I'm 33, no, I'm kidding. But anyway, your logical brain sort of, this is how they studied it, is your logical brain sort of goes offline, and your emotional brain, it's like, you know, a lightning bolt went in it, so it got traumatized. And so when logical brain knows about time and knows that, you know, oh well, it's raining right now, there's a song that's like pouring outside, it's really good, but anyway, it's raining right now. Your logical brain can say, oh, it'll stop raining soon. But when you're in emotional pain or happiness, you know, ecstasy and love, it feels like that love is gonna go forever, and you want it to, you know. It feels like the love is gonna go forever. But when you are in pain, it feels like the pain is gonna last forever. And so, because you're in an emotional state, you're so in your right brain, and your left brain sort of went offline. And so when someone triggers you and you haven't practiced being present and conscious, so what I'm going to teach you, what I'm going to tell you is, like, I'm not going to just tell you how this happened. I'm going to give you the answers that I found so that you can apply them in your life. But it takes practice. It's not just from hearing them from someone else, but when you practice, as you practice in your everyday life. Okay, so for the last 5 years, I have been, you don't have to do it this much, but I have been meditating for an hour every day for more than 5 years now. And I have a spiritual director that I met by like some miracle of God in Montreal at a center that I went to that's based on Saint Ignatius. But anyway, he was just a saint from like the 1600s that taught spiritual exercises, how to discern, to stay on a steady course in your spiritual life. But it doesn't have to be through that. But you know, when you're just doing it willy-nilly on your own, then your own emotional background can bring you here and there, and you can just go on a roller coaster. So if you find someone that is devoted and connected to God and has walked this path for many years before you, then that's why they recommend it. Not because you need someone and they're closer to God and they're higher. No, I have many people in my life that have kept me accountable on my path, that are not mean, that are really, really connected in deep ways, because they're committed to their connection to the divine and not just some fake faith. To divine love is God, and I call God divine love sometimes, because God is this absolute infinite beingness, a being that is beyond male and female, and is just, God is love, and it's not love is God, it's God is love. God emanates love, and we are born out of that love, and we are made in the image of this love. And so I knew in my heart, even in the darkest parts, somewhere in there, that there's a tether back to love. There's a line that goes back to God. Oh, it's like this silver. It's like a silver cord in a way, because we come out from love and we go back to love. And so when you get in touch with your knowing, and I wasn't in touch with my knowing before, because and I'm sharing this just so you can know it in your own life, is because when you have this old pain and this trauma underneath that you're not in touch with, until someone opens this wide open and you're on the floor and you can't understand why, and it feels like physical death would have been a lot less painful, than the psychological experience that was opened up of just, it's like a baby in pure abandonment, if you want to know. It's like, anyway, so when you are numb to all this stuff, it doesn't matter if you're numb, because it's still under there and it's running your life. I was quoting Jesus saying, "Forgive them, they know not what they're doing." It's like when you're in your unconscious, when this wound is down there, it's like the chariot's driver, and you have all these horses in front of you, and it's running your race. No matter how you keep trying to direct your life, all these old wounds are still there, but you're not aware of them. And so you're doing all these things, and you're not conscious how you're doing that, and like, I'm not saying it's your fault or my fault that we felt abandoned or wounded or traumatized or whatever in our childhood, or ghosted by a certain male or female, whomever, decided to ghost us. it's like they're a ghosting, just so you know, because I had to have a 20-year-old tell me what happened. She's like, oh, you got ghosted. I'm like, what's that? You know, is that, and I don't define myself by that anymore at all. It helped me understand what was going on back then. And you can watch, like, you can go on my YouTube channel and see from 2 years ago, from the posting of this, 2.5 years ago or so. It was like fresh. It was like the week of that it happened. I was like, oh no, I'm going on YouTube because I want to help other people that are going through this excruciating pain. And I lost 45 pounds. Like, you can't see what I look like. I'm going to be driving, but I lost 45 or so or more pounds from them. I went from a size 12 to a size 4, sometimes a size 2. But my life, I feel so alive now in my life, and vibrant, and so much more connected to the center of my being. Look, I have this ring that reminds me to stay in the center of my being. I read Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, which was the only, you know, outside of God, which God is inside the now, you know, is, that was the only thing that was keeping me alive. You know, you can say it's God, for sure it's God, but it's like, there's a verse in the Old Testament, you know, in the Torah, I think, or in the Psalms, or maybe one of the prophets, it says, be still and know that I am God. Be still. This is where you're going to have your knowing experientially, not just know it in your head. That doesn't help very much. Like, oh great, smile, Jesus loves you, smile, God loves you, you know, like, that's not going to help you in these really dark times. Like, it can help for a little bit until you know it experientially, but it's going, you know, be still. When you, because imagine, okay, let's go back to this to get the enlightenment in here for you. I'll just pretend that this is just audio, but you can see my lips moving. So to let the light in, is wide open to my parents, you know, and the love was coming through them, and then it stopped. Because sometimes what happens is you start developing a personality and it triggers your own parents and their own unconscious stuff, and you're not just this cute little baby anymore, and they're just overwhelmed or tired, or they don't know how to love in an intimate way, and so they just, it's like they shut off or cut down the love for you. You stop experiencing it. And then there's a video on YouTube about, I think it's called the straight face experiment, and like, if you want to look at it, watch it with caution. I'm cautioning you now. A psychiatrist of some kind that I had gone to for therapy before recommended it for me, and I'm like, I kind of wish I hadn't watched it, But I don't think they can do these kinds of experiments now, but it's just this woman, and they have her newborn baby with her, or maybe 4 months old or something, or 6. I think it's probably a 6-month-old, but the baby is looking at her and she's like, oh, I love you, and the baby is mirroring back and feels all this love, and you can see that the baby is receiving it. And then all of a sudden the baby's looking at her. Maybe it's almost 1. I can't remember when the eyes stay in contact with the mom, but it's even at the beginning, even right when they're born, actually, when you're just this 8 inches away or something. And so then the doctor in the experiment says, now just have a straight face like this. And don't look at your baby and don't respond. And the baby starts, going like that and like crying and like feeling confused and frustrated and, not understanding what's going on. It's just 100 degrees outside, so my phone's getting hot. And so you can just see in 1 minute of her doing this, how much like in the baby's psyche, the word psyche is the word for like spirit or soul, but it's not your soul. There's some part of you, right, that's never touched by this, never affected, never harmed, and so it's so great. This is the good part. There's the good news, there's good news. The word gospel means good news. There's good news in all of this, is that there's a Sufi poet, Rumi. I think he's from the 1300s, but I went to his grave in Turkey, and I love him so much. He's always spoken to my heart. But he said, do not seek for love. Seek instead to remove all the barriers between yourself and love. And so, what happens when you get ghosted is that, let's just break it down scientifically here, right? Philosophically, scientifically, is that you have this idea, you have not just an idea, so it's not an idea here, it's like a knowing. You have this experience of, because I just opened my heart so wide to this person, just like I do with my friend that, I love him so much. My friend that is like a gift from God, that he's in my life. And right now I see it's just like, if he's in my life just temporarily, it's just like any time. We don't even plan really. We planned like one time to see each other. Otherwise we just run into each other and we're just full love, And so it's like, it feels so good. It feels like this giant, like the sun is shining through you. Like, that's how powerful you have the capacity to love, right? And so it's like, when we're around each other, it just feels like full love towards each other and no holding back, and there's nothing we want from each other. There's nothing we're waiting for from the other person. We just have full love, and we can't explain it at all. And there's no like, okay, you have to keep giving this to me in my life, because I know now it's not from him. It only comes through him. It comes through me to him. Like, he knows, he has access, my friend. I won't say his name, but that it comes through him, right? And so, and there's another quote by Rumi that says that, it's the love that, oh, I know, here's Bob Marley that comes up and teaches us, because Bob Marley's always teaching me. He's like, the love would never leave us alone. It's one of his lyrics in his songs. The love never leave us alone. So in the darkness, there must come out the light. I think that's in Could You Be Loved, right? I'm allowed to say the name of the song, but Could You Be Loved and Be Loved, and be loved, be loved and be loved, right? So this is all a journey of how to get the enlightenment so that you can learn to have full access of love all the time. Okay, so when you are ghosted, let me break it down, and then I'll break down the other thing about the past and the future. When you are ghosted heart too in some capacity. And I'm like, hopefully not your body. I'm like, this is why you can use restraint, you know. But that's just a side thing, right? Is like, you are worth treating yourself with highest integrity, highest honor. Even if you don't feel like that, and you feel like if you try to take something in the now, and you just take something, you're actually acting from lack. You're acting from this place where you don't realize it. You think like, I better enjoy this while it's right here. But if you are taking something, you know, in that capacity, you know, how people do the one night stands or whatever, and I don't recommend that in the least at all. But when people are taking that, they're acting from a place, and we don't realize it, it's unconscious, of, well, I don't think this is really gonna be here in the future, so I might as well take it right now, you know what I mean? And it's just like, so you're actually acting from lack. You're acting from a place of, I doubt that a real person is going to love me and that there's going to be a commitment. So I might as well just like forget it and just think they're not going to be commitment. So just take what's in front of me, you know. And, you know, we're deceived in a lot of ways. A lie always presents itself as, you know, it's like the saying has been coming in my own intuition. It's like the devil always promises stuff you already have. You have full access to love and to the pleasure of feeling loved, which is better than any pleasure you could ever have physically. And it brings you physical pleasure because you get the warmth and the affection, and it draws other people who are loving into your life, who are genuinely loving and genuinely connected to the divine and connected in the now and enlightened. And so it's like all this stuff you already can have access to, but you keep yourself from it. It's like if I was high on cocaine all the time or something, it's probably a trigger word, I'll say, like, anyway, then how would I be connected to real people in my life? I'm just going to this substance that promises it's going to make me high, and it actually is robbing my life, robbing my money. And alcohol will do the same thing. It's, you know, you feel like you have all these inhibitions and, you know, to connection and to intimacy. And so alcohol comes in as like, yeah, I'll take away your inhibitions. And then it takes away your inhibitions around other people who also aren't committed to their own inner work and to discipline and to loving on a higher level and conscious loving instead of toxic, and to healing their own traumas, taking responsibility to heal their own traumas. And so you keep getting stepped on and hurt over and over and over again. And it's because you keep taking, you know, on the part, I'm not blaming, okay, don't blame yourself, because we just did this because, you know, our own parents in their own ways were just living according to their own programs. Even if they weren't on substances, they had their own programs that were running, their own unconsciousness. And as long as you're hooked in, as you're locked into your own unconsciousness, then that's what's going to be running your life. And you don't even realize it. It's like when Jesus says, let the dead bury the dead, you come and follow me. It's like, and he says, wake up, you know, because we don't know, we think we're awake, you know, like in a dream, right? When you're dreaming at night, you think you're awake in the dream, but you're not awake, you know? And so you have the capacity, like Jesus says, you know, you must be born again. Like, you're born of the flesh and you can be born of the spirit, of your soul. Like, wake up to your soul self. That's not the full meaning of what I don't think it's the full meaning at all of what he's saying, but it's on one level you can wake up to connecting to, I am a soul. I'm part Native American, and so it's like they teach this word, Matakiwashin, and it's like we're all in the mind womb of God. We're in God's dream. You know, we were made out of God. And you don't have to believe all the stuff that I understand. Like, I just understand this from my own knowing and experience. always looking for. And it was like, you know, the divine delivered it through this ugly package. Ugly meaning it was so painful. But I don't think it has to be so painful for everybody. This is why I'm like, if you get this early on, then you can trust that it's not like God wanted me to have all of this horrible pain by the hands of that other person. It's just this old wound was buried deep inside of me. And, you know, inevitably, something was going to happen to let it come out and be healed. It couldn't get cleaned out. We can't clean it out. It's like if a bullet went in us and we kept trying to act like it wasn't in us, it would like be septic and be infected in our body. It's like what Eckhart said today. Eckhart Tolle said today was like, he said the egotism, right? Because this is ultimately an ego death, egotism death. Oh, there was a rest area. I might just pull over, you know, because I'd like to look at you when I do this, and I don't want to be looking at all when I'm driving, because I don't want to ever set a bad example, you know. And I think the law is in this state that you can have it, but I don't want someone that's younger than me that hasn't been driving to do this for their YouTube channel or anything like that. So, because I don't need to save the time. I would love to just connect with you guys and give you this information. Not just information, this knowing so that you don't have to be in pain, right? So, so Eckhart Tolle has said that egotism has a self-destruct button within it, inside of it. And Elliot, my friend, I was friends with this guy, Elliot Smith. He was a musician. He was a soul friend of mine in this way too. Like my heart was just wide open to him, and love just poured forth, gushed out to him, and him to me. You know, I felt so much love with him. When I left his presence when we were hanging out, when I would drive back to Orange County from LA, because he was in LA at the time, my body would be just shaking because I had experienced so much awakening and consciousness and so much love from being with him. But he has this song, and it says, nobody knows what he's doing, still hanging around, can't make a sound. It's called Can't Make a Sound, but it's like when you're still in the stillness and you're hanging as in dying to your egotism self and waking up. You're waking up to your soul self. We are a soul. We're part of God and God's dream, and we're in this physical body. Some people say it's like a rental, you know, or you're renting this body, or like in the old days they would say it's like a horse, that you're borrowing this horse, you know, and it's like you want to treat the horse with honor and respect and feed it well, and you know, but not over honor it, you know, like the body, but know that this is the vehicle through which it's like this spark of God is here on this earth. And so but people forget that, and they're so identified with their personality self. And so you know, until the personality self runs out, until you see like this isn't working, I'm not getting the love that I wanted to get through my personality self, through money, through fame, through getting high on other stuff, through trying to steal stuff, which is taking stuff that's not yours to take. You know, it's not yours to take, to pretend like this person is mine. And, you know, but I'm not here to judge anybody. I think that judgment just starts confusing us and oh, here's an exit, I'll get off, and clouding our you know. And so forgive yourself for any don't take anything from each other. And it's just like Elliot and I, in a way. We were just full love when we were around each other. And for Elliot, I had a knowing that that's just all that it was going to be, you know. I didn't know. I mean, maybe that was my trauma that thought all that it was going to be. And maybe it was his trauma that thought that's all that we could have, you know. When really there could have been so much more, but we weren't aware of that. All right. Arizona and the desert. There's a verse in Hosea that says, I will take you out to the wilderness, to desert places, so I can speak tenderly to your heart, right? Look at this desert. You see that? It's all desert. This is like the dark night of the soul. You're brought into the desert places, right? And, you know, here, I'll let the window down for a second so that maybe we can hear any desert wind sounds. And I wish you could feel the 90-degree weather. 93 right now. Anyway, so I want you to have enlightenment. So I'm not rushing this, because what else do you have to do? Like, I know if you're watching this, then you probably felt that extreme pain that I felt so horribly, where it just tore you apart, you know? And so it's like egotism has a self-destruct button built in it, you know? And it's like, because it's like Jesus when he was tempted in the wilderness, you know? It's like he was tempted for fame and for glory and for importance and to make food for himself, you know. The devil said, you know, make this stone into bread, you know, and Jesus had been fasting for 40 days, right? And so it says he was hungry. And it's like, I saw that the other day. I was meditating on that idea, like, yeah, he was hungry. I was hungry for real love, you know. And when you're 2 and you're a baby, you know, you're hungry for real love. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. There's no shame that I wanted real love, you know. There's no shame that you want real love. There's nothing wrong with that. And so it's like, hi, you know, you are worth real love. And so, but he says, man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. It's like, you can look at it as every expression of love and tenderness that comes from the divine when you're plugged into the divine. I have a webinar that I created, and I'm not trying to advertise anything right now at all, okay? But I have a webinar, and I put so much love into that. But, and you can watch it for free. You can watch it over and over and over again. You know, you're welcome to. But in it, I was inspired when I made it, because I prayed a lot before I made it. But I talk about what it means. I have an acronym, PLUG, for plugged into the divine love. So I teach more about how to be plugged into the divine love, how to experience this for yourself. You know, I have almost 500 videos now on YouTube. It's just my name, Dr. Cheryl Meyer, where if you ever want a friend in any of this stuff, here I am. You know, I just offered that because I was just like, oh no, I'm not going through this alone. I want to give love this whole way to other people, like this whole time. And so look, go like this, go here with me, because this is the one thing that will help you in the middle of any kind of excruciating pain. Just like what Elliot was saying, and like Bob Marley was saying, the love would never leave us alone. You're not left alone. You're not without love, you know. And Elliot was saying, nobody else out there no physical being understands. Your own mind can't understand what you're doing when you're in the stillness and you're hanging around, which is like his funny, like we just had funny humor with each other. It's like, you're still hanging around. You're still dying to your old self, to your ego, your personality self. You can't make a sound because not because anyone's holding you down, but because stay in the stillness. You know, Elliot experienced a lot of excruciating pain in his own childhood, and I won't go into that. You know, that's his story. It's such an honor to know him and love him, you know, and be loved by him, you know, in the ways that he knew how to love me. I felt a huge amount of love from him, you know, and I felt a huge amount of love from just opening my heart as a friend to the person that ended up ghosting me and breaking my heart wide open, you know. It's like I still don't regret the love that I felt just flowing through me to that person, because I felt like it was divine love. It was just like I wanted that person to be loved, and I just didn't know that they were going to just disappear and walk out of my life, and it just broke open that drywall, right? So ghosting is when someone shows up and then they turn into a ghost. It's like someone died. When someone dies and you're not expecting them to die, and suddenly they're not there anymore, and you keep thinking they're going to be there and they're not there, and you have no way of contacting them, and they can't write you back or talk to you in any way. It's like that feeling. It's like the feeling of you want so badly for that person to still be alive, so you can have one more conversation or one more exchange of just being loving and receiving love from them, you know? Hold on. I'm going to roll it up now. All right. And so it's like, it feels like a death all of a sudden. So they call it ghosting because it's just like, and I'm sure you guys know who are here, but for any of you people who are older and didn't know what it was, it's like, you know, when someone seems real, like your parents seemed real, and then they just disappear and they block you or don't talk to you or act like you never existed, you know? So it's this feeling like, did I ever exist? You know, I thought love was coming through these people. And so it just takes you right back to this old childhood trauma and pain. That was, you know, I was still acting in my life and I didn't realize that. I've been to so much therapy and done so much inner work, and I myself didn't realize that I had this rejection and victim script still running in my subconscious, still saying like, love won't last, love isn't real, just take the scraps that you get when you can get them, you know. And the problem is when you accept scraps, that's what you attract into your life. And once you know and you learn through enlightenment, which lightens you up, like Rumi says, you know, I think I quoted that already, don't seek for love, seek instead to remove all the barriers between yourself and love, you know. And the crack is where the light comes through. Like this brokenness is where the light comes and can heal all this stuff, you know. And so it's like, as you're removing these layers of drywall, they get you back in touch with feelings you haven't had for years and years and years because they were buried. And so the scraps are just like a temporary high. This is why there's so many people, even Elliot, you know, had an addiction with alcohol. And like, even though when he was with me, he never seemed drunk. He seemed more conscious than any other person I'd ever met up to that point, you know? It's so weird because people will think this is sacrilegious, but he felt so much like Christ to me because he was so conscious and he had such a deep love, even though he was so wounded. And, you know, there were things where there were ways he couldn't consistently connect with me in my life. So I but I chose to, with him, create boundaries. And so, you know, anyway, when you, when it's kind of like, right? Some people say, like, here's your soul, right? In the center of the center, right? And as long as you stay in your soul and you connect to the divine, and you might not know what any of this means yet, don't worry about it. But when you stay in the present moment, then you're not looking at the past of like, wait, this love, I had all this love before, I felt all this love, and now I'm depressed. You know, when you look in the past, you can get depressed. When you look in the future, you go into this anxiety, and it feels like this horrible feeling state will last forever. It's not going to last forever. It's just, it feels like that in the moment. When you stay right here in the present, that's where, like, look, I'll roll it down again. You can be still and look at the wind, the slight wind that's blowing in those bushes, you know, the desert bushes. I love here watching the wind. That's like your soul consciousness. It's just like this wind. You know, it always grounds me. Nature will remind you of where you come from, your divine nature, because it's just more purely expressed. It's like Eckhart was saying, if you go to like a dog, you know, or a cat, it's not the dog or the cat, it just comes through them that they're just present. They're present with the divine. They're present with the divine, whether they're conscious of it or not. Nature just slows you down, and you're present with what is. And what is right now is just love. It's love. It's not, I was ghosted, I was hurting, and blah, blah, blah. And it's not, I will always be left without love. It's no. If you sit right here, you're like, wow, wait. What is wrong right now in this moment? Elliot sings a song that says, everything is nothing to me. And it's not nihilism. Nihilism is, you know, when you're denying the reality. It's just like when you disconnect from everything created in this duality. See, we come from the oneness, from the one God, from God. And we live here in duality where there's up, down, hot, cold, good, bad, wrong, right, blah, 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 blah. Rumi has another quote that says, you know, out in this field beyond right doing and wrong doing, you know, he's like, there's a field, I'll meet you there. It's like where there's just unconditional love, where you aren't your past actions. Someone else isn't their past actions. And I don't mean excusing them for their past actions. Eckhart was so good that he was teaching us, you know, people, all of us need to have, you know, Jesus said this too, is you reap what you sow. And it's in the Old Testament, in the wisdom, and in all different holy scriptures. On some level, people call it karma. But you reap what you sow. And so if you are cruel and you cut off someone, you're going to experience a cutoff in your own life. Like, I know that. I don't have to cause that in anyone else's life. I don't wish that on anybody, not even my worst enemies. I remember crying and crying and crying and like feeling torture and just feeling like, wow, I wouldn't ever wish this on my worst enemy ever, because it's just this psychic pain, you know, that you never want anyone to ever experience, you know. But anyway, you see, I can describe it because I'm not identified with it anymore. But for so long, you can build this identity around that pain because you still don't think you're going to have love. And so you just keep identifying yourself as a victim. And the victim see how I corrected my action, you know? It's like I don't want to set the example of anyone driving and possibly being distracted because, you know, every life matters on the road. And so I'll pull over, you know, even if it gets me home a lot later or whatever, because it's important, as soon as you notice, am I acting within the highest love in this moment, that you choose to do that. You choose to act in the highest love, because all that you can do is have the highest consciousness in this moment. This is the moment for you to act in love. This is the moment for you to apologize to people that have hurt you, and that you have hurt. Apologize to people that you have hurt. Take responsibility for your actions. If they're not a safe person, then you can write it down and you're sending them the love, But also, when you're waiting for someone else's apology, it's called resentment. You're sending them the bill over and over and over again. You're staying in resentment. Your hand is like this: give me what you owe me. And it's not like this, so you can't receive the love that's waiting to come in for you. This is why we're told, forgive. God says, vengeance is mine. Let God, so you reap what you sow, right? And so, back to Elliot saying, everything means nothing to me. Everything. I don't need anything anymore because I'm connected to the source of love, which is breathing through me right now, which causes all my blood vessels and my cells and everything to be animated still. It's like I came from the breath of God. God breathed into Adam. And Christ, when he rose from the dead, it says he breathed on the disciples. It's like the word spirit, pneuma, and in Greek and Hebrew and other languages, I'm sure, means, it's pneuma, but it means breath, the Ruach HaKodesh, it's like the breath, the holy breath of God, and so it's like this breath, you always have access to it. That's why I look for the wind, even if it's light, in trees. I will just sit in my worst moments and just be like, or my best moments, do this in your best moments and sit and watch the breath, the wind in the trees, and know that that wind is animating my life. And this sunshine, just like the sun shining on my face, it will shine on my face again. It will shine on my heart and open it up again so I can love on like the deepest and most beautiful levels ever. And so stillness will bring you enlightenment, because you're not adding a story to what happened. You can look at the facts of, I thought love was going to keep coming through this person. Oh, that does remind me of childhood when I felt love, or I remembered love from heaven in one way, and we came here, and at whatever point it felt like love was cut off, I stopped feeling that. And so I got numb, and I cut out other people, and I cut out my own self from my soul's knowing and from connecting with the divine. I stopped trusting that there was a divine, that there is a love that I can be connected to. Bring me a higher love, And so I can thank God genuinely that that a person seemed like they were in my illusion, right? That they were going to be a source where love was going to keep coming to them. Finally, it felt like I was loved. Like I felt so loved. I felt like that with Elliot too. And I feel like that with my friend, but I feel like that now all the time. I'm not saying all the time, because I can still get triggered, and then it's like everything goes dark and I forget. But it's so momentary now, and I'm not saying I'm always on a high. Eckhart this morning was saying that, he felt bliss for like 2 years, and now he just feels like this peace that passes all understanding, And he said maybe he felt the bliss because it was in such dark contrast from what he had experienced before, the pain that he had experienced before, because he was suicidal, he was, and when we're so identified with our pain body, this is how he said it, right? He said this in so many, public speakings on YouTube and stuff like that. So it's public knowledge now. Eckhart Tolle, Tolle, he said, he was like, I can't live with myself any longer, you know? And then he's like, wait a second. It came to his consciousness, like, who is the I that can't live with myself? Who is this hated self that he can't live with any longer? And then who is this conscious self, you know? It's like if you say, what was I just thinking? Well, I am the one observing the thoughts. I am not the thinker. I am not the one, I'm not the thoughts. I'm not the emotions. I'm not this feeling of wretchedness, of all total rejection, of whatever is going on, of abandonment from childhood or whatever, of the woundedness or whatever. I'm not the victim. I am the one that doesn't want to live with that ruminating thought and torturing self-identity. It's not who you are. And so once you notice that, you step into, in that moment, this deeper consciousness. I am the one observing these thoughts. I am the one that can be still, you know, be still and know. And God said, you know, when Moses said, what's your name? And he says, I am that I am. I am that I am. And you look at this I amness in you. If we're created in the image of God, then we're like a drop of the ocean, and the ocean is God, and we're like a drop. And you go, wait, I am. God is this absolute infinite beingness, but I am being right here. I am a human being, you know? I'm having a human experience as a soul in a body, but I am. You don't have to add to that. I can say I am loved, and I am love. I am one with love now. And it's not from making it up. It's from knowing it. Intuition is like tuition, you know, it's your inner knowing. It's connecting with your inner knowing. But you can't connect with it by just going, oh, God loves me, you know, I am love, repeating it. It's just stop, you know, not necessarily. I'm like, it works when you're in this deep pain because you can't go anywhere else. I couldn't go 1 second in the future or I would be in this torture pain again. I couldn't go 1 second in the past or I'd be like, oh, you're just worth rejecting, you know. I just had to stay in the present, and in the present I found knowing the I am part of me that's connected to the divine still. That's this deeper I. All right, I feel like getting back on the road, so I'm just gonna wrap this up. I can truly say now, but, you know, I wanted to say it a long time ago. I just wanted it to be over, the pain to be over, you know. But C.S. Lewis has a quote that says, pain is an indicator that something needs to be attended to. And it's not the other person, it's not the ghoster that brings you the pain. The ghoster is a mirror in your own life showing you, yes, how other people ghosted you in your early childhood, and you never deserved that. But God always wanted you to know love. And so when they ghosted us, we learned to ghost ourselves. We learned you're not worth really showing up for in a true capacity. You're not worth really treating with love and dignity and respect and knowing and trusting. I didn't trust that real love was going to show up in my life until I started knowing it in my own self. So like, even if you don't get all of this, is treat yourself now. I invite you to treat yourself now as if you're the most beautiful, loving being that was always worth love, like your own sister, like you would want to treat your own daughter or son or sister or brother or best friend in the world. Or if there was like a baby over there that was abandoned that I found in a basket, you know, that I could just be like, I'm gonna love this baby and I'm gonna take him or her to here in America, you can take them to the fire department, and I'm gonna make sure that he or she is in a good family and adopted and loved. And if it doesn't happen there, like, I'm going to take care of that baby until it happens, and like, whatever. It's like, treat yourself like that, like you are worth the highest dignity and the highest love. And And you can also do that by developing this discipline. Instead of staying in your fear and anxiety, Jesus says, he says, because whether you know him as God or as just an enlightened being or a teacher, like look at it in any three levels, because who am I to tell you how you ought to see the world or any of this? But if you look at what Jesus said, he said, do not let your heart be tossed about. Don't let it stay in trouble. And it says right before the crucifixion is, my heart is troubled. And so he prayed in the garden and sweat blood and prayed to God, I take this cup away from me. Like I was praying, take this cup away from me. I can't take the pain, because it felt like I was a 2-month-old baby dying of hunger because if you don't hold a baby, they will die. They found it during the wartime, unfortunately. Like they were feeding these babies, but their moms weren't around for some reason. And so people weren't holding them and they were dying from not being held. And so it felt like I was going to die. And so like, be warm, be affectionate to yourself, but ask God, ask the divine. And see, I didn't trust that the divine wanted to give that to me, because if God wanted me to have that, why was this reopening some pain in childhood? Why was I re-experiencing something that was so painful that I had already buried and numbed over? I was so numb and I didn't realize I was numb, But, and so Jesus says, don't let your heart stay in this trouble. Stay thrown about, be disquieted, I'm going to write a whole book about this part, it's already been coming, I've been writing it. And so, I have it right there in the back seat, it's, be pulled out of quietness. Okay. Your natural state is this place of peace and joy and quietness and stillness and love. I know that because I know that about myself. So I know that you could know this, and so, but, I forgot to tell you guys, I feel like I cried. Like I could have probably filled up my whole car, and it's like an SUV, maybe about 7 times full of the tears I cried. Easily. But who cares, you guys? I'm not saying who cares, like nihilistic who cares, but just like, so what? Do I want 10 more years, 20 more years of not feeling my feelings because I had 7 carloads of tears to cry? Just let them come. It feels like you're going to cry forever. You're not going to cry forever. It feels so good to let yourself feel your feelings, because after the tears come the joy. Steel Pulse sings a song called Chant a Psalm a Day, and they're quoting a psalm that says, those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. You do reap what you sow. I buried all these tears, seeds of tears, and I'm reaping in real, true joy now. And so that's why I want everybody to have this, And so I was told, actually, I call it like a download. I had a vision, right? I had a vision before this happened. And I didn't know it was going to happen, but I wrote down the vision, you could see it in my phone. Maybe I'll show the timestamp of it because it still says the date when I wrote it down. And I wrote down because I was getting it in my heart, even though my heart was numb in all these other ways. And it was saying, I felt like it was definitely from the divine because I had been praying and I got this vision. I wasn't asking for the vision, but it says, enter into the silence, Cheryl. Don't be afraid of the silence. The silence will transform you like nothing else ever could have. It'll be a lot more silence than you ever thought possible. And I'm not turning you away from me, I'm saying. it feels like you're going right back into the horrible loneliness that you felt in childhood. But it's like the only way around something is through. Mark Twain or someone wrote that, you know. It's like, it's the only way through. And so I'm saying, like, you become unstoppable. You become so courageous. You become so fearless, so strong, like a freaking lion after this. You're like an eagle, you know? And you're not afraid of ever being alone, and you're not afraid of saying no to any toxic thing. And not afraid of saying no to the devil who says, turn this stone into bread. You're like, no, you know, I'm no way. Forget that. Like, I'm not interested in manipulating anything for a short-term gain. You know, I choose to enjoy this beautiful present, whether I'm crying or laughing or like in the desert, or, you know, I'm snowboarding in a bunch of snow with the sun shining on me, or roller skating, you know. Find my roller skating channel if ever you're feeling low on Instagram. I created it about a year ago, and it's SK8 being, because I'm just being and I liked the number 8, but while I'm roller skating, because I just wanted people to, like, every time I was feeling this beautiful sense of expansiveness and connection with nature and with God, and you're in this flow state, I just recorded a bunch of it so I could put it on, so there's like 1 minute reel, so you can just sit there and be present with someone else, you know, that can tell you, because you can tell my authenticity and sincerity. You know, I'm not making any money from any of this. Like, I have like 200 subscribers right now or something, almost 300, right? So it's not about any of that. I just want you to know love, and I want you to know you can get through this, and that, you know. And so I had that vision where it said, enter into the silent. Don't be afraid of the silence. It'll transform you more than anything else could have. But it's like, you know, it feels like you're gonna experience being left all over again as a child. But you're not. And so that's why we're so afraid to go there, and we'll keep running to addictions and to highs and to other people and to stupid things, you know. Stupid things we do. Still, I find you next to me. There's that song called Next to Me, you know. Is that by Imagine Dragons? I don't know. But I have so many songs that have come to me, you know. That's a different way I'm going to give back. There's so much. I have like billions and billions of dollars or gems or whatever worth of sunshine and love, pure love, that can come through me now to the rest of the world. And like, I'm so excited to give it to the world. Like, it was worth any amount of pain that I had gone through, even though I'd never wished this upon anyone. And so it's called ego death, and it's called the dark night of the soul, because, you know, everything feels like this desert. It feels like you're going to be in the darkness, but it's like how Jesus, before he went in his official ministry, he went into the wilderness and fasted for 40 days. So when you accept it, then you accept it as a fasting. You're not starving, you're fasting. I have a whole video called You're Not Starving, You're Fasting. When you realize I'm fasting because I choose to give myself this connection to this higher love. I will fast from going to my addictions, or going to a quick fix, or going to something else that will get me high in the immediate, you know? You're not starving, you're just fasting. You're choosing to fast because you're worth it. You're worth it. It's different. It's a qualitative difference from when you felt like you were starving emotionally. Oh, and that car said oversized load in the beginning of it. It's like, you're gonna get an oversized load of love. You get so much love in the now. It's not going to get it. It's not in the future. It's you get it now when you choose to be present and let anything surface that needs to surface. And, you know, again, if you need help, find it. There are so many resources. Like I said, you know, I've made almost 500 YouTube videos now. you know, before I got through all of this, you know. And there's Eckhart Tolle, and there's a guy named John Butler, and there's a woman named Latoya Okia. I love her, you know. And there's all sorts of other resources that you can have access to, and resources locally, you know, look it up locally if you need professional help. But, you know, I recommend only people that are deep in presence, that know how to connect to God, to the divine love, that aren't just trying to take your money and give you their own quick high. You know, here's a program, you know. It's like people that you can tell. It's like in the Narnia books, it says, the professor said after the first Narnia book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, you know, it says, he's like, don't go talking about Narnia to just everybody, you know. And they're like, but how do we know who to talk about Narnia to? He's like, you'll know. There's a look in their face if they've been to Narnia. You know, we've been to Narnia, you know, you'll know. Like Elliot and I had this knowing. We did. But that's the one other thing I was going to say is, like, there's a verse that says, God did not give us a spirit of fear. But, so that's not the spirit of God, is fear. Like, but he gave us, you can understand, it's like there's a tell, you can have a knowing. By their fruit you will know them, right? It's not someone with false bravado or false full egotism or false confidence. You know, it's the authentic people, not the ones that are pretending to be authentic either, you know, but you'll know them by their fruit. It's like fruit over time that you see in their life. And you see fruit, and it's like you see the fruit in my life, you know, you see, I can put up maybe the before and after, you can find it elsewhere on my social media. There's the fruit of real change that's happened in my life. But God's spirit, right? God did not give you one of fear, but one of power and love and a sound mind. It's like self-discipline. You're using your discipline to practice staying in the present. Practice, don't add a story to, don't say, oh, you were worth rejecting. It's just like, oh, I experienced feeling utterly rejected. I experienced someone was there and it felt like the love was coming to me, and then all of a sudden it got cut off, and then I experienced this feeling inside like I wasn't ever worth love, and it's not true, you know. And so I can experience being in the moment, and it's like, is it true that people aren't worth loving? Is it true that if I found a baby right there, that baby wouldn't be worth loving just because someone unconsciously chose to leave it, you know, leave him or her? It's like, no, that baby was always worth loving, and you were always worth loving, and I was always worth loving. And it wasn't the responsibility of even that other person, or let's say it was officially the responsibility of my parents to love me, but forgive them. They know not what they're doing. They were locked into their own unconscious and their own wounds. And so they didn't get through the drywall to let the love come into them in this deep way where they could, you know, slap a fish on it and call themselves a certain religion. But it's just like, until they have this experience of God loving in them in this huge capacity, they didn't have it to give. You can only give to others what you have. Now, that's a quote from Mother Teresa. It's just like, she said, prayer brings us on our knees. And then she says, you must get the love. Somehow she said that before you can give it to other people. But everybody's looking for love in all the wrong places. All these people are thinking that they're getting love, you know, but that's not love. That's not love. What I'm talking about is getting real love. Like, you are allowed, and you always, in this present moment, be still and rest in the knowing that you can have access to love. You always had access to love. It's like what animates us right now. But sometimes there's layers. Sometimes there's layers of pain, and it feels like you're gonna die. That's why it's called ego death, you know, but you're not dying. It's just this outer personality. What does Elliot have? Look at what I can do with empty time. He says, like, there's a ghost of me in every town, you know, because he would tour and go into all these different towns. It's like, you know, there's this perception of him as, he got an Academy Award nomination, but as this musician, this great musician, you know, in every town, you know, and it's just like, those are just the outer images of the personality. It's like, he is the soul that's in the body that, you know, he's passed away from this life. And so that he's not in a physical body here, as far as I know, you know, his consciousness lives on. I believe, I understand it, that our souls live on. I've had so many experiences of knowing that. So I can't say that for you, but I'm just saying, it's like, you know, encourage yourself, infuse courage, ask divine love for help. This is help, that it just showed up in your life. Share this with other people, you know, because I want you to know that you are loved and you can get through this. And it's just another call to awaken to a deeper love. You know, that person was just a mirror. It's a mirror. For this thing, this friend of mine that just disappeared was a mirror of the ways I was still ghosting myself, because I didn't want to get to this deeper part of myself that was wounded, because I felt like it made me ugly and needy, and it made people reject me, but I was rejecting myself. And once I got in there and like, I love you, I don't care what the wounds are, I love you, Cheryl, I love you, whatever your name is. It's like, as soon as you got in there, it's like, let's just clean this up. It's just like a nurse, a guy nurse or a woman nurse or whatever, coming in and like cleaning that up. Oh, look, we got it all the pus got cleared out, all the bullets out, you know. It's like, now you're bulletproof, you know, unstoppable, because it all got cleaned up. And now it's just healing and love, and so much more love can flow through me, because I'm not afraid to be my authentic self, because I kept hiding that wound. It was like a shame, and shame on the level of consciousness. I have that in my car. I printed it out. There's a book by a guy named David Hawkins called Letting Go, and he wrote out the levels of consciousness. But the level, this is coming to me right now, the level of consciousness, that's the lowest. The lowest. The highest is enlightenment, you know, and underneath that is this inner peace and love and joy. And underneath that is willingness. Like, even if you wake up and go, God, I am willing. How can I serve you today? I am willing to be loving to other people. That got me through so much, you know. But even courage and neutrality is higher. As soon as you get to courage, and then neutrality is higher than courage, but willingness and all of that, then you're in the positive state of emotions. Below that is pride, but anger is higher than that, and then there's shame and guilt and all this stuff. But shame is at the very bottom. It's like 20, where enlightenment is like 1,000. Shame is 20, and go figure how much shame I was carrying, because I didn't know I was hiding this rejection that was deep inside of me that I didn't want myself to know about or anyone to know about. But I wasn't knowing my real self. My real self as this consciousness, as this soul. It's like because you're hiding part of your personality, you're so identified with that part of your personality. It's so weird. It's like, if you're like, oh, I love myself or I hate myself, you're still in this relationship with this self, you know? That's not the real you. You're locked in it though. You're locked in it until you can unlock yourself and go, wait, I am the deeper I that has this awareness. I am the awareness. Like Jesus said, it is, it said it is for freedom that I've set you free. But he said, I have come to set the captives free. Free from what? Free from this false identity that you are this personality, you know? You're so much more than this personality. So don't be afraid when the personality self starts dissolving. But it does feel like a death, you know? And that's why some people go and they feel suicidal. But, you know, if my clients come in and they feel that, I'm just like, Well, look, you would have been dead. What can we do today? We can do anything because you're alive. You're alive now. So keep on keeping on and embrace the aliveness and stay in the now, because you can choose how to live this power, love, and self-discipline. Be disciplined to not go in and be hooked in again to the story of pain, because the victim, all the victim gets is scraps, you know? And you're worth way more than scraps. And so I kept seeing myself as a victim before, and of course then I was victimized by someone because I was repeating the victim experience that I had as a child. Whether my parents didn't mean to do that. Their parents didn't mean to do that, but even if your parents meant to do it, they were acting out their anger on someone from someone else, you know? So stay alive in your soul self and, you know, research, study. There's a verse that says, study to show yourself approved. You can study, you can use your reasoning. Reasoning is on the higher scale of consciousness too. You can use your reasoning instead of torturing yourself with your mind. You can use your reasoning to look up what is dark night of the soul, what is stillness, what is presence, what does it mean to be saved, what is theosis, you know. The Orthodox, Greek Orthodox talk about theosis, which is saying God, let's say, God, it's Christ. God became man so that man could become God. You know, you're being transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's not just your mind, it's your nous, N-O-U-S. There's all sorts of deep truths that you will find and you'll understand, and it's so amazing. It's like I could talk for hours, and obviously you can see I could talk for hours and hours, but I don't want someone to be overwhelmed by the amount of time that this video is, or if I break it up into 2 videos, you know. But be committed to your own true spiritual growth. This is your true spiritual journey. It's just a spiritual journey. It doesn't have anything to do with the other person. The other person just, they were a tool to help you see. And they're not a tool in and of themselves. They are a soul that deserves to be loved, you know. But you can let them go and find their way and experience the repercussions of their actions, you know. And, you know, wish them well, wish them love. But they were a mirror. They were, because God works all things out for good for those who are called according to his purpose, the divine love purpose. We are all called. Mother Teresa said that as well. We're all called to be saints. I think it's in the Bible, of course, you know, it's like somewhere we're called to be saints. We're all called on this high purpose of highest love. And so, it says that, you know, we're God's poema, it says workmanship, but we're God's poem, we're God's piece of art. And all of these horrible things can be ground up and turned into manure into the ground that brings an oasis. And it says rivers will show up in the desert, you know, love will show up in the driest place, you know. Because God does work all things out for good for those who are called according to this higher purpose of knowing real love. This darkness just brought me into real love. And I say that with all authenticity and honesty, and anyone that knows me now can tell you that I mean that, and I know that. And I just want you to have this love, you know. Because it's already in you. It just comes through me. It's not me. It comes through me, and I welcome it. And I welcome whatever needs to come up now, because although I didn't trust before at all, you know, barely at all, I built a trust, and it wasn't in nothing, and it wasn't trusting in toxic people. It was trusting in real love by being truly loving to myself, by going, wait a second, who is the I that I can't live with? Who is the I that feels rejected? Am I rejected? Am I? Go into this part of yourself that is beyond your name, beyond your skin color, beyond your religion, beyond your nationality, beyond any of that, beyond your age. Feel him or her. It's beyond your gender. Am I worth rejecting? Do I even care if anything rejects me out there? It's like, no, you get this sense of yourself that's beyond that. Practice living in your being self, the human being. Like I created a year ago, skate being. I didn't just learn all that this weekend from Eckhart Tolle, you know. All right, I wish you so much love. I always do that in a lot of my videos. Peace and love, real peace, this peace that passes all understanding, that's not temporary. Like Jesus says, pray for your enemies, bless those who persecute you. In blessing them, you bring hot coals upon them. Like, it's not you're trying to, you stop resending the bill to them so that you give it up to God, and you're not excusing any action. There's no action you're excusing. You're just saying, I release my judgment of this person and I accept. What teaching did you want to give me? What love did you want to bring into my life? You know, let's get to the love part. You know, how can I get to the love part of this story? You know, and then it's not trauma anymore. It's healed. All right. I wish you so much love. Much love.